Welcome to the Unfiltered Path podcast, where we explore life's journeys without the constraints of filters. In a world saturated with highlight reels, we dive deep into the true essence of individual experiences, offering our listeners an uncensored glimpse into the triumphs, the struggles, and the transformative moments that define us. Our mission is to provide hope, inspire resilience, and to remind you that every path, no matter how windy or rocky, can lead to growth and enlightenment. Join us as we navigate uncharted territories of truth, to be moved, to be inspired, and to discover that you are not alone on this unfiltered journey of life. Hello, everyone. My name is Trinity Baker. I am a mindset coach and motivational speaker. I am here today on the Unfiltered Path podcast as one of your co-hosts, joined with...
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. I am an aerialist. That's a fancy term for performing suspended in the air. Essentially, I'm the bird of the circus. I'm also an educator, so I teach other people how to do it too. And I perform an abundance of performance opportunities to my students. I'm so confident saying that now, so I'm just going to add that to my intro. And I'm also here with my wonderful co-host.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Unfiltered Path podcast. My name is Graham Duval, owner of Valüd Productions. My company works to produce and implement video marketing strategies proven to make you more successful with your business, ultimately gaining awareness, turning strangers into clients. And I am super excited today for all you listeners, for our guest. So I am excited to be joined by our guest today.
My name is Laurie Hardie. I am a life coach. I'm a Seattle radio personality. And so being on video, the thing I love about radio is we got to hide. For so many years, we got to just be behind a microphone. And now we have to be in front of the public, which is part of what I do as leaving a legacy. Is so much of the social media, like someone will say, oh, they're my Facebook friend. And the question is, well, do you actually know them? And all of you, what you do is really interactive one-on-one with your clients. But often we get into this thing where we're doing social media and we don't have relationship. We don't have a connection really with our client. And on the other side of that, what I learned during COVID with my radio degree, and I'm a coach and I have a bachelor degree in social services, is when people all went to Zoom and they all got on social media and began speaking, they didn't know how to speak. See, when I got into radio, I had to take a course and I had to learn how to speak. And I'm not talking about diction, but the very first thing we learned was one-to-one. So you're talking to one person. And when people in marketing, you probably all know this because you've probably taken the courses. They say, if you talk to everyone, you talk to no one. And so we're supposed to narrow down and get our avatar. Well, what happens is that doesn't translate into audio. So because I've been on the radio for so long, when I introduce a song or I also do traffic, I don't say, hey, you guys, are you in, so Seattle is where I'm from. Are you in Seattle? Are you on I-5? No. I say, are you on I-5 at Columbia? Because there's an accident and you're going to want to get over in the left lane. But if I say everybody, the people listening are just going to go, oh, But if I say, are you? They're going to go, oh, no. And they're going to answer me. What happens? I'm one person on the radio talking to millions, but now I'm talking to one. Mm-hmm. And what happened during COVID is I experienced this terrible loneliness because I live alone. My kids are in a different state. And when I went to work at the radio station, every DJ was working from home and there was nobody. I was alone all the time. So when I would get on these Zooms and they'd say, hey, you guys, I was like, you don't care about me. You just care about everybody. What I felt was like, and I know they didn't mean this because our heart is always to serve, that the people I'm around, Their heart is to serve. But what would happen is, as somebody listening, I would go, it was almost like they stepped up a notch above me, because now they're talking down to all of us. And when we talk to one person, it feels weird, especially on a Zoom when there's so many. But what happens to the person listening is they feel valued. They feel like they matter. And have you heard of ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences?
Yeah.
So it's a website now, but what happened, this doctor was trying to figure out, he had all these weight loss women, and he was trying to figure out what the basis was. Well, almost everyone in his program had childhood trauma. Mm-hmm. And so he did this big study, and now they're using it. So for a teacher, if a teacher has a student that gets up during the class and goes and sharpens a pencil, and the teacher goes, "Hey, go sit down," a child with a average, I'm not going to say normal, upbringing will go, "Oh, sorry," and go. But a child with trauma might cower, run to the corner, and the teacher's like, "What? I didn't do anything." Right? So it's not that the teacher is doing anything wrong, but there are ways to talk to people that have trauma. Do you have any idea what percentage of your audience has ACEs as podcasters?
Trauma is so widespread, and one of the smallest things that we talk about and normalize, because we live in a society where you can't be vulnerable, we can't have courage, right? And so even the statistics of who has trauma, like, I bet it's way more than even the statistics, because those are just the people that are willing to say, "I have it." Right?
Yeah, that's so true, Trinity. Right now we're hovering at 40%. I just heard 60% the other day. And if it's sexual trauma, it's less reported, because there's so much more that goes with that. So many more threats of, what will happen to the child if they tell, or the family. So in your audience, you have these entrepreneurs that are doing amazing, wonderful things. And they may or may not know they have trauma. They may have been doing the work. So for me, I was doing the work, but I was getting on these Zooms, and there was this one, it was like a financial program, and I was so excited. I loved all the things they were talking about. And I got on the Zoom, and after the fifth, you guys need to know this. I paid for the program, but I went away because I went, "You don't care about me." And the thing is, I think she did. But I was I listen to podcasts all day, every day, because that's what I do. I was so tired of being one of you guys. And on this podcast site, it's a Christian podcast site, someone said, "Well, when we refer to people, we refer to man." And I go, "Well, this isn't really a gender thing. When we're saying you guys, we're not saying, hey, you men." And one of my favorite podcasters, I put my what I wanted to say in AI so that it would be brilliant. And I said, "I know that you have ACEs," because he's talked about childhood trauma instead of an alcoholic. He has millions and millions of followers. He's well loved. I love his guests, but recently his 2 first commercials start with this: "Hey guys."
Oh my goodness.
And I wrote to them, and of course, with the bigger podcast, he's never going to see it. It's his staff. And so I said, "Hey, name of podcaster, staff, your host has trauma. So he has trauma survivors in his audience. And when he speaks in a certain way, we feel not valued, not seen, and not heard. There's one easy way to fix that, and there's just 2 words that he would have to get rid of." And I never heard back, and that's okay. Who am I?
But it's so true, because we do this podcast, and I'm going to speak for Grim and Danielle here. We created this podcast in order to connect. We don't want those of you who are listening to feel alone. There are so many aspects and areas of life where we feel alone, business ownership being one of them. You don't have to do this alone. We're here to share our struggles and challenges and ups and downs and all of the good and somewhat challenging moments. So I love that you brought that, Laurie. Graham, I'm interested to hear what you
Why?
your perspective on this, because you do so much video marketing. So you must have like, bursting at the seams.
My head right now is like, man, if someone is even starting an ad with you guys or even like talking like that, it's mind blowing, because like one of the biggest things that I teach, I literally just got done doing a little like presentation at one of the Brewing Connections thing, and we were talking about hooks. And the beginning is you have 3 to 5 seconds in the beginning to capture someone's attention. And the way, like you said, Laurie, to get them to feel valued is having some sort of qualifying like statement or question or something like that, where you can pique their curiosity to get them to want to continue watching or continue listening or whatever it is. And so you guys, or hey, my name is not the best way to start off a beginning ad or something that you're saying. Like, starting off with something that is going to make them problem aware, or something that's going to make them feel connected or feel valued, or realize that you do have the answer in a short, quick, sentence, so that they're like, oh, maybe I should keep listening to this thing, is so important. It's like, it's as important as the call to action, because you need to tell people what to do after. But I think it's more important because you're not even going to get to the call to action if you can't even get past that first, like, if they hear you guys, now they're changing the station, they don't even get to hear the call to action, so I find that mind blowing. And it really is a thing where a lot of marketing agencies and like marketers in general are still like operating like that. And I have conversations all the time with people where they're like, oh yeah, I was at this marketing agency and they were having us do this. And I'm like, wow, like they're not evolving into the world that we are today. And it's just like, it's mind blowing. And I'm so glad that you were talking about that, because it's like, it really is a thing. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
For me, every time you guys have said, hey, you guys, in my head, it is, hey, you guys.
The Goonies.
Every time. So I'm trying not to smile, because you guys are like, I'm over here hearing, hey, you guys. So I'm laughing. I'm a comedian inside. So in my head, I've been like refraining from smiling because it's just not even appropriate.
But it's the same concept.
But that was one of the first things I learned in BNI, was to address very specific. And if you're using general terminology, you're not going to get anything. But if you say, I'm looking for a mom that drives an SUV and shops in the morning, because then I know she has the day off, could take a private lesson, right? Right? If she's shopping Tuesday at Shaw's at 9 a.m., she probably can go to aerial class at 10. Yeah. So that is something I learned really early on in terms of just building my business. I think by the time I get to posting, I'm so emotional. You really are just getting what the frick I want to post. I try so hard to be business appropriate and like I should be like everybody else, but it just doesn't work out. It really does. We should stop. I'm like, it's just, you're going to get all these cool people I know, and it's just going to be like pictures and opportunities for people to join. Like, join an event or a class or,
but you can still have a visual hook that is, that is a visual hook that does the same thing as saying a regular hook, but it being more visually. So like, it's something that grabs the attention, that piques that curiosity, like that makes, exactly. And so you still have showing up there, being you, doing whatever, is still having that same hook, power that is there.
And this all relates back to us being as passionate gets about what we do, how we help, how we serve you in the ways that we do. And so let's go back because, Laurie, your program is called Leaving a Legacy. And it's so funny that you're on this podcast today because I have talked to 3 different clients this week who are in some sort of either loss period or have had someone removed from their life. And we've talked about living the legacy, right? Because so often we see people not live their legacy on. And so when I have a client who is like grieving the loss of someone, the conversation is always about how can we live their legacy on. And so you are working with people about how to leave their legacy, like leaving their legacy now, which I love because I think we all have our passions that we have to get out and we have to leave. We have to do and live now and we have to leave. So tell us a little bit more about your leaving the legacy.
Trinity, thank you so much. And there's 2 things I want to say about it. One involves a death doula. Have you heard of a death doula?
Yeah.
But I'd like to go back to Graham and Danielle because the beauty of what just happened when you 2 were talking, that is what happens in marketing. But I just want to be me. But you have to have a hook, which again, that all feels very contrived. And so as entrepreneurs that don't know that much, we're like, oh, what do I do? But I love it because, Graham, what you're saying is hook them, give them what they need. Give them what they need, then, or give them what they want, and then tell them what they need. And Danielle, you're like, this is what I do. I need you to see what I do. And they want that. But first, we're all selfish. First, give me what I want. And then I'm going to want more of you. And so I love that diversity you 2 bring because, yeah, and it is. And, we've all seen, and people that don't have like trauma, you guys might not bother them at all. But when you think of 40% of your audience or more has it, they're probably the ones who need. I mean, when I think of Ariel, what you do, Danielle, I'm so fascinated because I have a coworker that's just been doing that for stress. We live here in Seattle, and she found a place to do that. And I can see it is lighting up her world. And, how did she find it? She found it online, right? So something had to hook her. So thank you. Thank you for that because entrepreneurs, we're wearing all the different hats. We're trying to do all the different things. And what we want is to be the invitation, and that's legacy. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to do a podcast. If you have a phone, you can, I love audio, so I have an audio recorder, and people use this for radio. It's high quality. It's called Voice Record Pro. And you can just, on your phone, tell one story of one child. Oh, remember that time when we were at the beach? You can tell one story about your childhood. See, what happened to me is I have a new grandson. He's 1.5 now. And his middle name is his mom's grandpa's last name, which is German. And I said to my son, okay, they're in their 30s. Just like you named him after family. You're named after family. And he went, what? My son is 33. And he goes, what? And I said, honey, your name is Davis. Remember Mom, Pa Davis, the corner store on Whidbey Island? You were named after them. And he's like, now, we've told him this. He somewhere he knows this. But this is why legacy is so important, because they may not remember. What if I was gone? What if something had happened to me and he didn't ever know or make that connection? Is it a big deal? I don't know. But as we get older, people are looking for legacy. They're looking for ancestry. They're looking for connection. Many people don't even think they have a story. But when we open the mic, and we can do it on Zoom, we all have the video recorder. Tell one story. Yeah, it's not going to be great the first time you do it. You might be looking up your nose. You're going to learn some things. But here's what happens. If you are telling your stories and your thoughts and your insights, whether video or audio, say the tragic happens, which my niece lives in California. She was brutally beat and left for dead. She did survive, and she's doing well, Trinity. But what if she was gone? Do you know the family? Because she lived in California so far away from us, there were so many things now they're learning about her that they just didn't know what she was interested in. I mean, they're a close family. So a lot of things we assume everyone knows about us. So when we begin to document, and then if you have the, idea, I might want to do a podcast. And like we talked about the hook and the, it's going to be like, I work with people in recovery. So you guys, you family, you may not know that I was an alcoholic and I got into recovery. It's been 30 years. We don't talk about it. And they'll be like, all these grandkids are like, we didn't know that. So it's leaving that legacy. But what I learned is, and so with a podcast, it's so easy to start with a question, as Graham said, tell a story because we love stories, do some teaching, and then voila, drive them to your page.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? After 52 episodes, 1 year, transcribe them on Google Transcribe. You've never picked a pencil and you've got a book.
So true. That's so true. Podcasts are such a good thing to do for content. There's so much repurposing that you can do with podcasts. I love to hear that. And also, too, I just touch briefly on it. I love to hear the recovery work as well. I'm almost 7 years sober in the recovery community as well. So
congratulations. That's hard work. And those statistics, when you think of ACEs, over 40%, you look back, many of them have childhood trauma, but the statistics for recovery are much lower. So congratulations, Graham. That's hard work.
thank you.
Huge. When you think about leaving a legacy, so I lost my mom when I was 25. She was 45 of alcohol addiction and many other family members before her. And so I love this conversation, the fact that it's connecting the recovery and the legacy, because when you lose someone at 45, she has so much knowledge that I will never know because there was no way to capture that. She didn't capture that for me. So I love that. And every day that I show up in whatever platform I am at, whether it's just a social media post or reel or podcast or show or whatever it is, that is my goal, is to leave this legacy, because I have so much in here that I want to get out for everyone. And not only just the clients I work with and the people who listen and can just be inspired by my messages and transform their lives. My son, I want him to know that your passions and your mission need to be fulfilled. We need to fill and go on this path that we're called to, regardless of whatever anyone else is telling you. Because yes, is entrepreneurship, is it not guaranteed? It doesn't come with benefits. It doesn't come with a 401k, none of that stuff. And all of that is great for those who are called to that platform to serve, right? But there are some of us that aren't, and we need to be able to honor that and give people hope that you can do it. And it's okay if it's rocky, because honestly, my career as a nurse was just as rocky as my business. It was not any smoother at all. So I love that perspective that we give, I hope that we give people that perspective.
Well, and when you think about the stories, I keep thinking about Danielle. I'm just imagining she probably has a zillion stories and maybe hasn't even thought of how they connect with, we talk about testimonials in business. Every story matters. So one day, when my kids were little, my middle son, that's the one named Davis, we had horses and we rode just a couple blocks down the road to an arena, and we rode all day. Well, these people, the guy invented something for a marine, some sort of little trinket for boats, and became this multimillionaire. So they had this huge, arena and house, and they had trampolines and four-wheelers and everything, so many things. And so when we left, I pulled my son up on my horse, and he said to me, "Mom, I wish I lived here." And I said, "So moms, duh, they have everything. We have a horse." And I had become a coach. And so I said, what is it that makes you want to live here? I got curious. And he said, Mom, see and he's pointing to his belt. And he had this carabiner and he had this big one. And I go, yeah. And he goes, see this? See that chain? Their chain doesn't lock, Mom. And if I lived here, they could use my carabiner and lock that gate and they could be safe. I would have missed that. I would have gone from my kid wants everything, to my kid wants to protect this family.
Yeah, a message that you would have missed if you didn't get curious. And I love that message, Laurie. Get curious. I think that we are all in this passion that we're serving in today. Graham, you got curious. Danielle, you got freaking curious. Like, you are an aerialist. That takes a lot of curiosity, my friend. We got curious with our passions. We got curious with this drive that we were heading towards and the way we wanted to serve and then how we can serve it. I love that. I love that message. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, curiosity, when I hear that, it just makes me think too, because today there's still so many people who are living the old kind of sales mentality where it's like, oh, I got a used car salesman and got to show all the features and the benefits and all this stuff. And in reality, it's all about these personal connections like you talk about, Laurie, of you wouldn't know if you don't ask. And the best way to actually be in a sales meeting and to sell is to get curious, and genuinely, not just doing it because they say to do it, but actually genuinely caring. And this is what you guys all do, Danielle, Trinity, Laurie, is asking those questions, finding out what is the problem, or what are they facing, and if you're a good fit to work together, genuinely finding out. And it maybe you're not, maybe you need to refer them to someone and not just making the sale just to make the sale. And I think if you can have your business that way, you're going to succeed way more than that salesperson or business owner who is just coming in to sell and get all grimy and, get in the ring. It's like an argument almost, you know what I mean? I love that. I think it's awesome.
Imagine how much curiosity it takes, Danielle, when probably 99% of your clients say, I can't do that.
Never don't. Literally, my job is to redirect fear and self-doubt. The more I realize that, the better teacher I am. It's just my job to, know the technical stuff, right? But where the value is my ability to redirect fear and doubt. And it's interesting how if you can appreciate failing at something but still showing up, you build confidence because you're still promising something to yourself and fulfilling it. And then you're still celebrating yourself when it's not perfect. And what a beautiful practice. And so what happens is all of a sudden that pours out in the regular life and kind of other decisions. Aerial arts for me was exactly how I got out of a very, very scary lifestyle. And so very, very scary places, lifestyle. It wasn't just what I was doing to my own body. It was oh my God, thank God I had some extra angels in heaven. So, but that self-discipline, nobody can take that away from me. And I was that get home from school, eat a cup of noodles. I was depressed. I tried killing myself in high school. The people that used to kind of be there for me in high school, what's interesting, are literally my adult bullies, because they would rather me be in that dark hole because that's where they have a value over me. Anyways, totally went sideways on that. But what I mean is, it's a self-discipline and self-value that's built up, and the majority of my job is redirecting fear. Absolutely, at the core of it, and not just I'm scared of heights. People are scared of spinning backwards, or
something. I remember being up there, and my fear was getting down, and it was just a simple 2-foot jump. I'm up there, I got up there, and my fear was jumping down. And so you have to be really curious to why, because it's there's deeper in Laurie, you know this as a coach too, like the initial surface level reason pushback is never the real reason in pushback.
No.
And you got to be curious, and you got to be curious, Graham, you too. When you're creating content,
Oh, yeah.
like what the business offers at the surface level, you got to dig and dig.
Oh,
right?
100%. 100%. And that's like the biggest thing is, I mean, especially with sales, like, because that's what I'm typically trying to do is get more of the sales. And like, there's always those surface level objections where it's like, whatever, but it's like, oh, okay, what's below that? And then whatever it is that's below that, that's where we need to create the content for, because that's the thing that's actually going to get the result.
Lately, in terms of business, one thing I've been really embracing is my audience is not my audience. I'm not here to serve them. And in fact, the people that like might be even judgmental towards me is my audience. I'm supposed to be that point of reference in their giant universe of an existence. And I've been really, really kind of focusing on that concept lately. It's really been helping me eliminate like numbers and because my media is still very small numbers, but I feel like I'm getting more engagement within the numbers lately. And it's because I'm okay with like surrendering to alignment, but in a business sense. My audience is going to be my audience, the good and the bad. And if they're not supposed to be my audience, then I just need to let go. And so,
oh, that's so much better. Like, I tell clients this all the time on every single onboarding. I'm like, look, I would way rather you have 100 followers of people that are engaging and like doing everything than going viral and having 1 million people who have nothing to do with what you're watching. You know what I mean? Because that's really what's going to help you. Yeah.
random. So there was this person, and it's just like personal. Okay, this is not about business, but there was a bunch of likes, and I was just curious. I'm like, what are these likes? You know, so I clicked on it, and it was all these like bot, like F me now accounts. And I was like, I felt insecure for a millisecond. And then I realized it's because they're just active on these bot things. And so they're getting all these random likes because they're probably disgusting. And I was like, oh, I'll just take my 6 people that are all business owners and a family member. I'm okay with my 6. Like, you know what I mean? I'm doing something crazy up in the air, like something absolutely stunning. And I think it was like a very, like, not even double digit, like, amount. And I only cared because I cared about what that post was. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't over the top of a moment. But I was just curious, George. And I clicked wanting to know what those, like, 100 and whatever likes. And I was like, oh,
Yeah. I think it,
hire you at a job because you follow accounts like that.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Because employers will, or like say, like I was like heading a business group and I needed to go look at an application. And I went to their media and they're following a bunch of F Me Now accounts. Well, no, I would have never, wouldn't have even let it go. Like, absolutely not. And so this was actually someone I was interested romantically. And it completely shifted my mindset, like on a whole nother level, because I was feeling insecure.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, my bad.
But listen, you listened to your insecurity. You listened to your insecurity. And so much of what we see is that we push it away, we ignore it, we make it mean something that it's not, when it's just guidance to listen to it, and you listen to it, and then you got the guidance that it was meant for. Like, you literally took that cliche saying of everything happens for a reason, and you just worked it. And so your insecurity was there because it was guiding you to go explore your insecurity more and get that message, the exact message that you needed.
Yeah.
And so
I could have been positive. I didn't even kind of like see it like that. So
yeah. And it's the most beautiful thing that when we like really dive deep into our insecurities, like Laurie, you work with people who are leaving a legacy, who are passionate about getting their message out and leaving a legacy. They're going to have insecurities, and they've got to dive deep into that insecurity. Like, why are you insecure? Why are you not wanting to be vulnerable with this information and get this out there? And so when you dive deep into that, they really learn how powerful their message is. Like, I remember doing this personally, like the beginning of my career, did not want to be vulnerable with my story at all. I thought it may disqualify me, right? When really, when I learned the power of vulnerability and the courage to speak my truth no matter what, and trust that if I am guided to speak about a certain topic and be vulnerable about a certain topic, there is someone listening that needs to hear that message. And even if it is one person that needs to hear that message, it is my duty to speak my truth and be vulnerable in that. And Graham, you pull that vulnerability out of people too. You know, you may be like, hey, we're going to talk about this in this video. And they'd be like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Well, why? Be curious. Why? Because when you have the pushback, when that fear is coming up in whatever way it forms, we have to dig deeper. And that is where our growth is. That's where our next level is.
That's why legacy is so important. Can I tell you a story about the day center I ran for Homeless Line? We called it Testimonial Tuesday. It was when people would share their stories, how they got off the streets or out of drug and alcohol. But most of the ladies there were on the streets and weren't quite ready to get off. The volunteers would be like, we're going to get you housing. And they're like, could I just have a cup of coffee? Yeah. So there was this one lady that worked with us. Her name was Diane, lovely lady. And every week we said, will you do it next week? No, I don't have a story. And finally I took her aside. I go, you don't have a story? She goes, well, I'm not in recovery. And this woman, she's at work one day and she hears on the radio on the news, this local family, right, pretty close to where their office was, about this kind of older bridge, and the bridge fell. It just collapsed on a vehicle and killed the family instantly. She's hearing this at work and they're all like, oh, that's terrible. We know that bridge. That was her family. It was her daughter, her son-in-law, and her baby grandson. In a heartbeat, all gone. And she told that story, and then she told the story of how she walked through the grief, her anger at God. And do you know, in this tiny little day center with maybe 20, 30 women, you know, drinking their coffee with their backpacks because they live on the streets, came up to her sobbing and said, that's why I'm on the streets. I never could get a hold of my grief. I lost everything. So our stories that we don't think anybody could relate to are so too painful to share. If somebody is praying for an answer and you're it, would you be willing to open a mic? You don't have to publish it. Leave it on your phone. But if you decide to, there's people. I teach how to podcast. Anybody can take a podcast class. It's easy. I teach how to speak in a way that makes it's an invitation. And isn't that what sales is? So many people say, I hate sales. No, don't do sales then. Invite. Just invite and refer. Invite and refer.
Yes, I had one of my clients is a business owner. We were talking about navigating social media as a business owner and how to get your message out there. And she's like, I hate posting. Like, I sit down and I just hate posting. And I said, okay, well, that's why you're not posting. Number one, we can't do things that we're not passionate about. And so,
problem solved.
what does posting mean to you? And she said, well, posting is a way that I can get my message out. And I said, okay, so every time you feel yourself say, I hate posting, change that mental mindset, change that focus, change the meaning of it to, this is a way I get my message out. And it was literally like a switch went off. And she has been posting the most beautiful, passionate messages in her business. Already got client, and I was like, it's all about our passion. We have to get our message. And when we open up the door to being able to get that divine guidance of the message that we need, like Danielle, your content, I feel you in it. You are 100% using social media to share the message that needs to be heard in a way that it needs to be heard. And so don't ever change that, because I totally feel you in that. But you can see the people who hate posting, and you can see the people who use posting to share their message and their passion. And I think that is the coolest thing, because it takes guts. I mean, listen, it takes guts.
Most definitely. This has been absolutely awesome conversation. I hope our listeners are taking some inspiration here. Like, what are those little things that they can do to get curious, to show their passions, to leave that legacy for the people in their lives, even if it is just getting it on their phone. Like Laurie mentioned, just start that practice because it does get easier. So I want to thank you, Laurie, for joining us today, and I hope all our listeners have gotten some value out of this. Again, my name is Graham. You can find me on social media at Valued Productions, VALUD Productions, same thing, valuedproductions.com. It's been awesome conversation today. Go follow the Unfiltered Path podcast, all places where podcasts are, and I'm joined with our awesome co-host today.
Hey everyone, I am Trinity Baker. I am a mindset coach. I take clients that I am so blessed to work with out of survival mode. So that depression, anxiety, overwhelm, chaos, just not fulfilling their purpose. And I bring them into thrival mode, which is living a fulfilling, happy, amazing life that they are excited to wake up to every single day. And it is a blessing that I'm able to do that. You can find me and all of my passion and inspirational messages on all social media platforms, The Trinity Baker, and also my website, thetrinitybaker.com. And I'm joined here with my co-host.
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. I'm an aerialist. I'm also an educator, so I teach other people how to do it as well. I like to celebrate myself, my students, and being an athlete and a mother. So if that's something that would inspire you, you can find me on the majority of platforms. And we are here with our beautiful co-host.
My name is Laurie Hardie. Two things I want to leave you with. One is when you're sharing your story, leaving your legacy, talk to one person, say you, rather than you guys, and just open your mic, just open your video, tell a story, leave your legacy for your family. It may turn into a podcast one day. And also, what I have gained today, thank you for your generosity, is the struggle of an entrepreneur. And when we go into business for ourselves, I thought, oh, isn't this wonderful? It reminded me when I went into radio, I thought, doesn't radio sound fun? Guess what? They put you in a studio all by yourself and you're supposed to sound like you're having a party. And so as entrepreneurs, if we can share our struggles together, like I had something come up the other day and I was with a group of entrepreneur women. It was very painful. It was very personal. Like you just shared, Danielle, something personal. And I shared it and I thought, they're not going to think I'm a leader. They're going to think I'm weak. And you know what? They embraced me and several said, that's happened to me too. We want our community of the people that we're serving, but we also want our community of entrepreneurs that support each other. So you can find me at Coach Laurie, LAURIE.com. I have a do-it-yourself course you can take, or I can work with you one-on-one if you already have a podcast and you want to get in the top 5%. I have my magic I can do there. Or
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you again, Laurie, and make sure you tune in next week to the Unfiltered Path podcast.